Congratulations! You have just hatched from a remarkably fragile egg into the harsh and unforgiving reality of the late Cretaceous period. You open your eyes, stretch your scrawny neck, and look at the world around you. You are destined for absolute greatness. You are a Quetzalcoatlus. When fully grown, you will become the largest flying creature to ever cast a shadow upon the face of the earth. Your wingspan will stretch an incredible 30 to 40 feet wide, which is essentially the exact same size as a modern F-16 fighter jet. When you are standing firmly on the ground, you will look a fully grown adult giraffe right in the eyes. You are a towering titan of the prehistoric skies, an absolute marvel of biological engineering, and a god among the lesser reptiles that scurry in the dirt below you. You look like a deity of the sky, a magnificent ruler of the prehistoric world, a creature so majestic that the mere sight of you should send shockwaves of pure terror down the spines of everything that dares to look up. But hold on a second. Do not let this glorious cinematic image go to your head just yet. Mother Nature has a very twisted sense of humor, and she has built a massive, fatal flaw right into your majestic design. You harbor a dark, terrifying, and deeply pathetic biological secret. In order to achieve this impossible feat of aviation, to get a creature the size of a giraffe airborne, evolution had to cut some serious corners. Your bones are entirely hollow. And when I say hollow, I do not mean they are just light and airy. I mean they are practically made of papier-mâché and broken dreams. Your skeletal structure is so impossibly thin, so dangerously fragile, that your bones have walls that are barely thicker than a piece of cardboard. You are a magnificent, towering beast constructed entirely out of plastic drinking straws and cling wrap. This means that every single moment of your life on the ground is an absolute game of Russian roulette. You are not a god. You are a walking, breathing glass cannon. And just one slightly awkward landing, one wrong step on a stupidly placed rock, or one minor gust of wind at the wrong time could snap your hollow bones like dry twigs. And in this brutal prehistoric world, a broken bone does not mean a trip to the hospital. A broken bone is a guaranteed, slow, agonizing death sentence by starvation. Welcome to the incredibly stressful, high-stakes, high-altitude, and terribly fragile life of a Quetzalcoatlus. You probably think that with a wingspan the size of a small airplane, you can just elegantly leap into the air and gracefully ride the thermals like a majestic bald eagle. Go ahead and wipe that ridiculous thought out of your brain right now. Because of your enormous, absurdly heavy head and your massive body, you absolutely cannot just flap your wings and lift off from a standing position. Your leg muscles simply do not have the power to push a giraffe-sized body off the dirt. So, how exactly does a giant, fragile fighter jet bird get into the air? You are forced to perform the most exhausting, terrifying, and physically demanding push-up in the history of the planet. Every single time you want to fly, you have to execute what scientists call a quadrupedal launch. This means you have to fold your massive wings up, plant your delicate wing knuckles deep into the dirt, lean your entire body weight forward, and then violently vault yourself into the air, using your front limbs like a biological catapult. It is a frantic, explosive, panic-inducing maneuver that requires an absolute massive burst of energy. Imagine trying to do a burpee while wearing a parachute and holding a mattress. That is your daily routine just to get off the ground. And if you miscalculate your launch, or if the mud beneath your knuckles is just a little bit too soft, you slip. You fall flat on your giant face, you snap a delicate wing bone, and your life is instantly over. But let us talk about the absolute humiliation of just walking around on the ground. When you are not desperately catapulting yourself into the sky, you are forced to walk on all fours. Because your hind legs are pathetically small compared to your front limbs, you shamble around using your folded wings as makeshift crutches. You do not stride with the confidence of an apex predator. You waddle, you hobble, and you lumber around. Like an arthritic old man who just lost his walking cane. You take up a ridiculous amount of space, and your gait is awkward, slow, and completely stripped of any dignity. You look absolutely ridiculous. And looking ridiculous is the least of your problems, because you are currently sharing the neighborhood with some of the most efficient, brutal, and terrifying killing machines evolution has ever produced. Picture this. You are taking a very awkward, waddling stroll through the prehistoric ferns, minding your own business, trying not to trip over your own massive feet, when suddenly, you hear the heavy, thudding footsteps of a hungry Tyrannosaurus rex. Or perhaps a pack of highly coordinated, razor-clawed dromaeosaurs bursts out of the bushes, looking at you like you are the largest, most pathetic all-you-can-eat buffet they have ever seen in their entire lives. Panic sets in instantly. You cannot run away. Your legs are useless for sprinting. You cannot fight back, because your bones will shatter the moment a predator even looks at them funny. Your only option is the quadrupedal launch. You have exactly 2 seconds to plant your knuckles, summon every ounce of strength you have, and vault yourself into the safety of the sky. But wait, the ground is wet. Your heart is pounding. The jaws of a massive predator are mere inches from your incredibly fragile tail. If your knuckle slips on a wet leaf, if you stumble over a hidden root, or if you just simply hesitate for a fraction of a second, you will not take off. You will crash. And in that terrifying, humiliating moment, your glorious, magnificent, towering body simply becomes the world's largest, crispiest, easiest chicken nugget for a predator that did not even have to work hard for its meal. You are an absolute marvel of evolution, yes, but on the ground, you are nothing more than a giant, helpless target wrapped in a very thin layer of skin. But let us assume you somehow managed to execute the perfect launch. You survived the terrifying ordeal on the ground, and now you are finally up in the air where you belong. You are soaring through the clouds, looking down at the magnificent prehistoric landscape. You feel like a true king of the skies. However, your moment of glorious triumph is going to be incredibly short-lived. The second you get into the air, a brand new nightmare begins. Your gigantic body and massive wings require a genuinely astronomical amount of energy just to stay aloft. Your biological engine is burning through calories faster than a wildfire burns through dry grass. You are flying, yes, but you are also constantly, perpetually, and painfully hungry. Your entire existence in the sky is not about enjoying the magnificent view. It is an endless, desperate crusade to find food before your internal battery completely runs out and you plummet straight out of the sky from sheer exhaustion. And how exactly does a flying creature the size of a giraffe hunt for its food? You do not elegantly dive into the ocean to catch fish like some majestic albatross. Your neck is way too long, your head is way too heavy, and you are far too clumsy for graceful aquatic maneuvering. Instead, your hunting strategy involves flying dangerously low over the open plains and swamps, acting like a giant, terrifying aerial vacuum cleaner. You use your insanely long beak to snatch up whatever small, unsuspecting dinosaurs, lizards, or mammals happen to be wandering around in the mud below you. You pick them off the ground like you are aggressively grabbing sushi off a moving conveyor belt. It sounds incredibly efficient in theory, but there is a massive catch. Every single time you swoop down to grab a quick snack, you are bringing yourself dangerously close to the very ground you worked so hard to escape from. You have to maintain absolute aerodynamic control. If you misjudge your speed, if your wingtip clips a tall tree branch, or if the terrified baby dinosaur you are trying to swallow manages to thrash around and throw off your delicate center of gravity, you are going down. And now we have finally arrived at the absolute climax of your pathetic biological existence. The single most terrifying, death-defying event of your entire life. Landing. Remember how I said your bones are completely hollow and thinner than a cheap piece of cardboard? Yes. Well, what goes up must eventually come down. And for you, coming down is a literal horror movie. You do not have the luxurious, sturdy landing gear of an airplane. You do not have thick, shock-absorbing legs to cushion your massive descent. When you are ready to land, you essentially have to stall yourself in mid-air, drop out of the sky, and pray to whatever prehistoric gods are listening that your tiny, fragile legs do not instantly snap upon impact. You have to use your massive wings like giant parachute brakes, desperately trying to bleed off as much forward momentum as possible before your brittle little toes touch the hard dirt. If the wind suddenly shifts, if the ground is uneven, or if you simply come in a fraction of a mile per hour too fast, the impact forces will shatter your glass bones into a million pieces. Imagine the sheer terror of having to carefully land a priceless, highly fragile crystal chandelier onto a concrete floor every single time you want to take a nap. That is your life. And to make matters even worse, sometimes your desperate hunger forces you to make terrible, life-threatening decisions. Let us say you are starving, and you spot the massive, rotting carcass of a dead sauropod on the ground. A free buffet. But wait, the carcass is already surrounded by a gang of angry scavengers and massive theropods with jaws strong enough to crush a car. You are so incredibly hungry that you decide to take the ultimate gamble. You awkwardly land your fragile body right in the middle of this prehistoric gang war just to get a bite of rotting meat. It is an absolute suicide mission. You are awkwardly waddling around, trying to steal a bite of food, while surrounded by creatures that are practically made of solid muscle and heavy armor. Just one accidental swipe from a predator's tail, one stray bite meant for someone else, or even just another dinosaur clumsily bumping into your wing, and you hear that terrifying, sickening crack. Your wing bone breaks. It is over. You cannot fly away. You cannot run. You cannot defend yourself. You are immediately demoted from the majestic ruler of the skies to the saddest, most pathetic appetizer on the prehistoric menu. You just sit there, hopelessly grounded, waiting for the inevitable end. So, the next time you look at a picture of a magnificent Quetzalcoatlus and think about how incredibly awesome it must have been to be the absolute largest flying creature in the history of the world, just remember the miserable, terrifying reality. You were nothing more than a fragile, hollow, constantly starving kite, made of brittle glass and very thin skin. You lived every single second of your life in absolute terror of gravity, a slightly strong breeze, and your own terrible center of balance. You were a magnificent biological joke, a creature that was simply too big, too fragile, and far too pathetic for the brutal world it lived in. Honestly, the giant asteroid that wiped you and the rest of the dinosaurs off the face of the Earth might have actually been an act of pure mercy. Do you think you could survive even one single day in the fragile, terrifying, and utterly humiliating body of the largest flying creature to ever exist? Would you trade away your solid bones just for the chance to awkwardly soar through the prehistoric clouds? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And do not forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on another dark, terrifying, and hilarious truth about the brutal world of animal survival. I will see you in the next one.